Late summer update of my Ensete maurellii, also known as the red Abyssinian banana. Pretty common plant to find at garden centers these days. These do not really reproduce. If you want to reproduce them, you have to basically cut them down to what they call the corm, which is kind of like the main trunk, and you cut that open. Anyway, you segment it, and new pups will shoot from it. If you look it up, it's kind of, I guess it's not overly complicated, but it's a bit of work to make it happen. But you can usually pick these up for a pretty reasonable price. I've had one of these before. They're not hardy to zone 8. I would think maybe 9B. They might be okay in 9B. Frost will damage the leaves no matter what zone it's in. They are relatively fast growing, and the thing about these is the nice red trunk and the red underside to the leaves. They're really quite a nice banana, and they get huge. They get pretty big. I would think 15 or 20 feet. I think the one I had might have gotten to about 12. What I have, for me, it gets too cold in the winter for them. I'm in zone 8B. So basically what I do is I chop all the leaves off, dig up the trunk, throw it in the garage. Come spring, actually what I did was I cut off all the leaves, dug up the trunk, and stuck it into a pot with some dry soil and just left it in my garage like that. And when things started warming up in spring, I noticed it growing in the garage, and then I slowly started adding water to it. They will dry out quite a bit. They'll look pretty desiccated, but that's okay. They're pretty easy to overwinter. You could even overwinter it probably in your house in a cool spot in the dark. And then you slowly start adding water to them in the spring. And when all kind of danger of like a heavy frost is past, bring them out, stick them in the ground, and they'll start growing pretty quickly. But this is just, whatever, a small 2-gallon pot from Home Depot, and it's doing pretty well. It's already doubled in size. But I wanted to show you, which I've not seen this before. Mine gets burnt. We've had quite a hot summer. It's not for lack of water. Usually you'll see these guys in full sun. I'm having a bit of a problem. I mean, the new leaves come out really nice, but this was the second newest. That one's already burnt. The one before that it's already burnt. The one before that, just kind of having a rough time. A lot of heat and a lot of sun. So my recommendation would be that they can take a lot of sun, but maybe not the late afternoon sun. That definitely seems to be affecting them. There is which you won't see very often, there is another type or species. It's the Ensete bananas, and they're more of a green. They don't have the red underside. I don't think they're quite as nice, and it's probably why they're not nearly as popular. But you can see each leaf gets bigger and bigger, and eventually these will turn into huge leaves, almost 6 feet. Not quite the size of those Musabaju, but these ones are much wider, thick, much wider leaf, but they're really nice with the red, and even on the upper surface of them, get that nice red mid stripe and the red edging, and you even do get some red on the leaf. So it's kind of a cool one. I mean, there's not a lot of us that can grow this year round. But fortunately it's a real easy one to overwinter. But I think when I bought this one, maybe this was the new leaf. I've cut a bunch off already, so they're quite fast growing, and they do make a real statement piece and a real focal point. It's just with time, once they reach a certain size, that trunk is almost all water, or pseudo stem. It's not a trunk. the pseudo stem, I believe is the correct term with bananas, they get heavy. So you have to be prepared for that, like lugging, digging it up and hauling it out of the ground and putting it back. It can be a little bit tricky. Before I had it in a garden, like back in a garden, and I had to maneuver it around plants and stuff, and it was no good. So that's why I decided to try one again. But look, I put it right here, right at the edge. There's just some, an annual in front of it, so I can easily access this to get it out in the fall and bring it back in the spring. So when do I bring it in? I pretty much bring it in after the first frost, like the first frost that causes damage to the leaves. So for me, it's tough to say. It could be late December. The last couple of years we've had a hard frost in October, but generally that's when I would, somewhere between October and December for me, and then in spring I would bring it out probably towards the end of March, maybe early April, something like that. So there is your red Abyssinian banana. Thanks for watching.